completely understand. So, okay. So hello, 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 hello.
Hello.
It's lovely to see you again, albeit virtually this time. And yeah, so much has been going on for you, Tania, in the recent weeks and months and year, really. So thank you for joining us. So we're going to look today at exploring the workplace for students who are neurodiverse and giving them that opportunity to get heard, understood, and give them some ideas about the job search and kind of what to expect and how to manage the process, I suppose, as well. So what do you think are the unique challenges and strengths that neurodiverse individuals bring to the job market?
So neurodiverse individuals, so those with ADHD, autism, dyslexia, we do face real struggles with like the traditional job search processes. So it could be, obviously we have difficulties with executive function, like organisation and time management, social interactions like during interviews, sensory interviews, feeling overwhelmed by like job descriptions that require like multitasking, or they have like really vague communication. So in the hiring processes, a lot is just the CV or a cover letter, but unfortunately that doesn't allow us to show our like personality or like unique strengths. So it can be quite challenging. I mean, times are changing. I think there's a lot more awareness, a lot more education on like kind of updating these processes, but it still can be a struggle. But on the flip side, our strengths are hyper focus, creativity, problem solving, attention to detail, ability to think outside the box. So we have so many strengths that people still aren't aware of or aren't educated about properly. And I think when we're in a deep interest in an area as well, like we've got such hyper focus and such passion, and we can really solve problems from all different angles. So the challenges are that we have a traditional hiring process still, but it is changing. There is definitely more awareness to it.
Absolutely. So how can neurodiverse individuals leverage their unique perspective and skills to stand out in job applications and in interviews as well?
Yeah, so I mean, first off, it's highlighting those core strengths. So like really emphasize it on the resume and like the interview. So for example, you might mention the ability to hyper focus on tasks, or they could involve their creative problem solving skills or attention to detail, because not everyone has these skills. Highlighting strengths, so it's that hyper focus, that creative problem solving skills, attention to detail. So not everyone has this. So it's because we're different, because we provide literally have a different brain and have different brain chemicals. We're just so special. So we really need to shout about it in the CV, in the cover letter, in the video interview as well. And I think also use those personal stories, because there's only one of you in life. So it's illustrating how neurodiversity has like shaped your unique experiences, your unique strengths. So you can focus on like providing a different perspective from like a past project, or like a work experience, or like a project you were deep in once, where you provided that creative thought process, that different perspective to like your other work colleagues. And I think like researching neurodiversity friendly employers as well. So it's kind of identifying and applying to these companies that have actively supported neurodiversity. That can help individuals and find environments where differences are valued. Now, this isn't an easy thing to do, I will say that now, but there are companies that are really shouting about how they support neurodiversity and, you know, winning the awards, doing the work, not just doing lip service. They're actually speaking about it and then actually actioning it as well. So I would say that.
That's great. Yes. And like you say, the skills for neurodiversity surrounding things like attention to detail, problem solving, creativity, thinking outside the box. And for the industry that we're in the creative industry, these are the most important skills to have. The ability to be able to think differently, to be able to make things afresh, anew, and really get into different mindsets and different people's mindsets. So it's a fascinating set of skills to have for this industry. So it's of real value, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what are some common misconceptions about neurodiversity that you find employers do have?
So, I mean, the stigma is real, sadly, but it is changing, you know, one company at a time in the UK. But I think the most common ones I have heard is that neurodiverse individuals are often perceived like less productive or less capable due to their differences in communication and work styles. And what I educate clients on is that just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong. And it's a strength. It's, you know, different ideologies should be celebrated. I think another one is some employers may assume neurodiverse individuals will require like a costly accommodations or won't be able to adapt to the team environments. Again, everyone is different. Everyone has different needs. And when you're a neurodivergent, your brain isn't like others. So sometimes we do need a different way to communicate, a different way to work. You know, certain tools can really help us work with neurotypical people, for example. And I think another one would be neurodiversity is seen as a disability. Now it's legally it's under a disability under the Equality Act, but I feel like the word disability also has some misconceptions to it. So it's not that we cannot do the work under the label of disability. It's we have that label of disability to just educate that our brains are different. And I think some people take the word disability like very literal. I know that's not the right word to use in this matter, but there's a stigma to the word disability. There's like I'm not able to do the work, even though I just need a different way of doing the same work as other people. So I think and then you've got like the lazy or can't do the work or, you know, not time efficient. And again, it's just finding those tools and finding that different way to communicate, to do the same work as a neurotypical or another neurodivergent in the team.
Exactly. And it's very interesting, isn't it? Because like you say, there's these skills we have, like hyper focus, that make people who are neurodiverse able to really pump out a lot more work and great quality work in a shorter period of time. So it's playing to the strengths. And also some companies, we are evolving because some of the biggest companies in the world now hire for neurodiversity and have a huge amount of neurodiverse, probably a bigger amount of neurodiverse in some cases than neurotypical, because they can see the value of those skills and also about the accessibility. So being able to work to support neurodiversity within a workplace means that you can help customers too. And we reflect a huge part of the population in neurodiversity. So there's just so much value in those skills and bringing those forward. Thank you. So in terms of strategies in the job search, what specific strategies can neurodiverse individuals use to identify job opportunities that align with their interests and their skills?
So I think a lot of people don't actually know this next point, which is there are actually like specialized job boards. So you don't have to just rely on Indeed, for instance, which is very popular. No, there are neurodivergent specialized job boards. So there is one called Inclusively, And then there's also one literally called Neurodiversity Job Board. And they actually are parts of the HR departments from all different companies saying we're actually wanting to hire neurodiversity, or we are open to different forms of humans. So they are actual specialized job boards, but also you have got Indeed, and you can always ask the HR reps through their email as well if they're open to hiring a neurodivergent. So, and this is where, you know, employers can understand unique needs as well in these job boards. I think a focus on passion is crucial. So I think pursuing roles that align with their passions and their strengths will allow them to bring their best selves forward for that job. So for example, they might be looking at roles that allow hyperfocus, creativity, data analysis, so like areas that they excel in. I would also say networking as well, so engaging with these support groups, and that there is absolutely loads on Facebook. They're really coming out of the works on TikTok as well. So it's engaging with them, you know, neurodiversity advocacy groups, you know, professionals like myself in the neurodiversity friendly space, neurodiversity friendly companies. I promise you they're out there, and they can help identify, like, you know, job leads, inclusive employers. So it's, because there's still a stigma, it's still not talked enough about, but I do hope that the points that I've just made will help someone to actually research a little bit more into it and not take things at face value as well.
Thank you. And how can neurodiverse individuals tailor their resumes and cover letters to highlight their strengths and minimise their potential challenges?
Absolutely. So sadly, we are still in a world where a lot of companies are just doing the job descriptions on Indeed, and it's very vague communication, and a lot of people are still just doing the CV and cover letter. So as we all know, neurodivergents have a lot of energy, have really big personalities, but we need to know how to put that in a cover letter and CV. So I would say really focus on like a skilled based resume, so rather than like chronological. So this allows neurodiverse candidates to highlight what they do best, showcasing key strengths, you know, like attention to detail, analytical skills, creativity. And that goes both ways. That goes both with the employer in terms of the HR who is actually putting out that job, so that works for them, but also who's actually creating that CV. So make sure you add those skills right at the top to say, these are the problems that I can provide you, these are the solutions. I'd say address strengths up front. So in that cover letter, you know, you can briefly mention your neurodiversity as a positive aspect. So again, focusing on the strengths it brings. So for instance, you know, you could write, as someone with ADHD, I excel in environments where creativity and multitasking are key. So in that sentence, you have said, I'm proud that I'm a neurodivergent. I'm telling you what I have, and I have the experience where my neurodiversity has brought a solution and not problems, and that it is a strength and not a weakness. So it's kind of being proud of who you are, but also showing these employers, again, that you can provide solutions, not problems. I think keep it clear and concise. So many of us struggle with executive function or organization. So it's helpful to keep resumes really clear, really concise. And again, this is both sides, you know, and focus on specific skills and experiences. So keep that content structured. Try not to waffle. Maybe show a friend your CV and cover letter as well, because two heads are better than one, and just tell them what your purpose is for it. So say the job that you're going for, say what the company is, say what the industry is, say what your strengths are, what you want to get out of it, and then you can body double and just be like, this is what I want to portray for myself, and this is the role, and da 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 da. And then you can get feedback, and then you can tailor it, especially if they're a neurotypical person as well. So they can give that side of the perspective as well of what other employers are looking at. So it's definitely putting that strength first and making sure that the employer knows that you would be a really big asset because of your neurodiversity, not a challenge.
And I think you're right about CVs. I mean, hopefully we're evolving out of CVs soon, because it is quite archaic.
Yeah, I've seen it. That, you know, people are slowly adding video, which is amazing. And they're, you know, introducing more telephones. We've got a really long way to go, but at least that awareness is there, and the conversations are happening, and like people are finding their voice more, which is a really beautiful thing to see. So we're on the road, we're on the path, but there's still a lot of things that we can do before the employer can do it. So
I mean, it's really great to think now that we might be becoming more human in a period of AI. You know, it's actually that pushback that we need to actually know who these people are. But whilst we are, like you say, utilising CVs, I think it's great to take these points on board that you've mentioned of putting those strengths and skills up front. And in fact, I think all CVs should really start with a skill and then a context around that skill for the particular job role, so that all you're seeing is bullets of skills and then what it means rather than job duties. Because that's all people have time for in a few seconds when they're looking at these CVs. And I think so getting those skills up front, it almost gives a plateau then between everybody as to, are these the skills you need? And if they are, great, let's match that skill with this skill. And there we go, and our strengths. And like you say, there'll be lots of power around certain strengths that neurodiverse can offer, and that's where you can elaborate. And I love the idea of the video CV, because personality and passion that comes through from individuals rather than CVs is going to be really powerful. So thank you.
Thank you. And we like, just to finally add, we really like researching as well. So neurodivergence, like one little thing will go into a rabbit hole of research. So research that company. Just add in the end of your cover letter, oh, I really liked your recent campaign of da 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 da, and I saw the effects of this, and I did some research into the data and some analysis. So you need to put that personalization forward, the skills forward, but also you need to let them know that you actually know who they are and what they value as well, and what they represent, and some of their recent work. So you can tell them that you understand their branding and what they do and why they do it as well. So definitely research rabbit hole, and it's fun.
That's great advice. And I think as well, people now, the best companies hire for attitude and train for skill. So actually, by putting forward your passion and your attitude as concerned the company and your interest in the company, it's a big win for any recruitment process, because you know then that their heart's in that company, and then it's a culture match, and that's a huge part of the recruitment process now more than ever. What are some of the effective techniques for preparing for and conducting interviews in a way that accommodates neurodiverse needs?
So I would first say interview preparation. So, you know, practicing some common interview questions with like someone that you trust, like a friend or a parent, or a mentor, and that can really build your confidence. You know, preparing, I'd say a script, you know, a loosely script of answers for like frequently asked questions, FAQs, can like really help you have the answers and provide them in a clear and focused way. So it's almost like taking it back to school, really. So it's having like those like SAT questions, the most common questions that you see in interviews, and kind of, you know, prep, and kind of like thinking more outside the box. And, you know, and there's so much nowadays, you know, you can YouTube it, you can Google it, and there'll be so many different interview sites and videos to like really prep you. But it's making sure you know those questions, and also emotionally preparing yourself for those questions as well, because we're not going to be able to walk in and know exactly what they're going to ask, but you can be your most prepared and your most confident by having all these different questions and practicing and talking to someone, and body language as well, and tone of voice, and practicing what you're actually skilled at as well, because there are some times where we know our stuff, we know what to do, we know our skill set, but sometimes it's really hard to get your voice out and actually get those words out, which is extremely frustrating. So that's why preparation is so key, because you know what you know, but you have to be able to communicate that as well. So I think also requesting accommodations. So I think, you know, such as sometimes maybe receiving questions in advance, you know, having a quieter space for interviews, being allowed to take notes. So a lot of times people don't ask for accommodations because they would seem deemed as like a burden, or they might not go forward because they're asking for these requests, when actually a lot of the companies would see it as quite the opposite. So it's showing that you are prepared, that you want to have this interview, that you're passionate about it, that you want to go to the end, and you want to do it to the best of your ability as well. And I think finally, disclosing neurodiversity. If you are comfortable and you choose to disclose your neurodiversity, whether it's like before or during the interview, to like maybe explain certain behaviors. So if you need that little bit more of extra processing time or difficulty with eye contact, you know, and focus these differences, how they don't affect their ability to perform the job well. So it's basically saying that you know, you've said that you've got this neurodiversity. Now you need to say that you bring solutions, not problems. Disclose if, you know, certain events happen, like how they would expand it, how you would work through it, what tools would you need. And again, none of this is costly, and with the modern day, companies are becoming more and more aware of neurodiversity, so they're less likely to, you know, put their foot down and just be like, no, we don't want to hear this, you're out of the interview process. It's not going to happen. So, but I know in 2024 there's still a massive stigma, and it can be really scary to say that you have a neurodivergence. But I promise you, if you are comfortable, if you really want the job and you've done the research and you know they're inclusive as well and they're screaming about it, you know, just go for it. Because at the end of the day, our neurodivergence, we didn't choose to be neurodivergents. We didn't choose to have the brains that we have, and we have to work with it. And in order to be feeling safe and happy in our working environment, sometimes we need just different things compared to neurotypical people. So yeah, I would say those things.
Yeah, I think it's really important, as you say, about value matching. You know, you've got to find a company that really values who you are and everything you embrace and everything that you stand for. And that company has to match it, because you're spending a big part of your life at work. Yes. So if you're not feeling valued, that is not going to work for you, the company, or elsewise. So, you know, it's about genuine respect as well, isn't it, in the world, you know, and that comes in all types of relationships. It's really valuing differences, because neurodiverse or neurotypical, there's still difference in people. So it's about really valuing each person as a human. And some companies do that well, others not so much. But yeah, really important to look into those things. And in terms of how can they advocate for themselves and communicate their needs? What is the sort of things that they can do there?
So I think first off, it's clear communication. So it's, you know, individuals can explain how their neurodiversity affects their working style, you know, what accommodations will help them perform best. So for example, you could say, I work best with clear instructions and structured deadlines. I work best by hearing verbal instructions, but I also need them written notes or written in an email instructions as well. So first off, I think it's just being clear with what you need. I think it's focusing on strengths. So, you know, when advocating, it helps to frame requests in terms of how these accommodations will enable them to bring their best strengths to that job. And I also think it's know your rights. So it's understanding legal protections. So in the UK, we have the Equality Act 2010, and in the US, they have ADA. So obviously this empowers neurodivergent individuals alike to request accommodations confidently. So there are legal protections. I have mentioned before that there is only one law that protects us, which is the Equality Act 2010. There are bills going through the government, but they aren't in place yet. So this is the only law, but companies can actually create their own policies in-house as well, which I highly recommend for all companies as well, because it enables your team to feel valued and seen as well. So
love that. And I think you know, it's really important. I like the point you made about I work best by ... And I think every person that joins a company should have that opportunity to talk about how they work best, so that you know, the company benefits, the individuals benefit. And there's, you know, it might be that I work best in these hours, I might be best in this kind of topic or this area, you know, whatever that may be, but giving, or in this particular space or surroundings or this particular equipment, whatever it is. It's about really, again, that value of your employees, but also what that will bring to your company, because it seems like the basic things of, you know, really just understanding different people and their requirements and human nature that needs to be pulled up a little bit more in the world. And we kind of have become almost appendages of a machine rather than individuals in certain environments. And I think it's great that, you know, we're probably seeing a turn towards more of that and maybe new legislation coming through to support it. But fantastic that, you know, we can start thinking about putting those ideas in place. And what sort of resources and support are currently available to help them navigate the job search and the job market?
So there are, like mentioned before, there are neurodiversity job boards. So like Inclusively, Neurodiversity in Business, even LinkedIn offers some resources and job listings that cater for neurodivergent candidates as well. So I highly recommend looking into that. Support organisations, so groups like the ADHD Foundation, Autism Speaks, Dyslexia Action, they offer career advice as well, networking opportunities, mentorship for neurodiverse job seekers as well. There are coaching and mentoring, so real career coaches who specialise in neurodiversity, and they can provide personalised support in preparing for interviews, you know, building CVs, navigating the workplace. And then there's, you know, going down the research rabbit hole as well. So it's, you know, the YouTubing, the Googling as well. So there's like forums, so like Reddit as well. I think Reddit's a really good place to look into, because there, you know, there's real neurodivergents who are asking those questions and answering each other as well. So it's a real community over there too. Yeah, there's more than people would think. So again, I think it's just literally Googling neurodivergent support, neurodivergent jobs, and guaranteed there will be pages and pages of support. It's just finding it, that's all.
Brilliant. And in terms of building confidence, what strategies can help neurodiverse individuals develop that resilience and cope with potential jobs setbacks in the job search process? And I have to say that's for everybody as well, because there can be setbacks, you know, more than ever at the moment.
So I would say focus on strengths. So it's regularly reminding yourself of your unique strengths. There is only one of you, and those strengths that you bring to the table. So keeping a list of personal achievements can like really help maintain confidence. So if you've had a bit of a struggling 6 months, just look back on those 6 months and it's just like, well, I've applied for these jobs, and your brain will change in those 6 months. You'll kind of think, oh, maybe I don't actually enjoy that part of what I'm going for. I'm going to focus on more this type of job, or maybe I'm not ready for that type of job that I've been applying for, but I could do this job. So it's kind of keeping track of your thought processes, your mental health, obviously, set manageable goals. So break that job search into smaller, more achievable tasks to like avoid feeling overwhelmed. I know that's really easy to say, because when we're in hyper focus, we'll apply for like 50 jobs in one day. So it's easier said than done, but I think the awareness is key. I would say self-care and breaks as well. So take that time to decompress and, engage in activities that reduce stress. Go on a mental health walk. 15 minutes can really change the chemicals literally in your brain. And be really proud of yourself. Job hunting can be super bloody emotional. So self-care is essential. And I don't mean, hopping for a spa for a weekend. I mean, make yourself a cup of tea, lie on the floor, call a mate, watch a couple of TikToks. It doesn't have to be like a massive thing, but that head break, or take a shower, it's take yourself away for just a few minutes so your brain can decompress, which will allow new ideas and a new way of applying, or kind of, a company that you hadn't thought of applying for might pop into your head because you've been able to just walk away and just have a little break. But it is challenging, especially as a neurodivergent, applying for jobs, because we have rejection sensitivity dysphoria as well. So every single rejection we do take personally, but it's really important to have that awareness that it is not personal. It's just someone just might be more suitable for that position that you're just either not ready for, or that it's just not the right time, or it shouldn't be taken personal. But it does feel like it. But I can assure you that the company that you're meant to work for is down the line, and no rejection is a rejection. It's an opportunity to get that step closer to the company you should be working for.
Absolutely. I love that idea around energy management, because we're on this always on world. It's crazy, particularly in the digital world we live in now. And we think that being successful is constantly doing something. And because we, operate at such a high processing speed, if you do that constantly, you'll burn out. It's like a car running down the road. It needs to stop to have new petrol. And actually, I remember once somebody saying to me, if you have a break, like you say, and you mentioned, new ideas come in, because you need to actually have that pause to refuel, if you like. And it's a part of being motivated and being successful, is actually learning to be able to step back and have a breather and take a break, especially when you do have so many overpowering ideas and so many of them. You've got to be able to compute all of that. That's a lot of information to take in, which is the blessing, but also it's also a challenge. It can wear you out. So it's getting that energy balance. So I really like that example of energy balance. How can neurodiverse individuals build a strong support network to help navigate the job market? And that's the last question today.
So it's joining neurodiverse communities. So there's so many online forums, local support groups for neurodiverse individuals, and they can provide, encouragement, job leads, shared experiences, because being a neurodivergent, it can feel really lonely, because it's quite an emotional thing to go through. So finding people that are going through the exact same thing as you, where they have, bees in their head and they're constantly thinking, and they the forgetfulness, the like being clumsy, having 1,000 bruises all over you because you've keeps bumping into the table, and it's those little things that other people might not get. But when you find your people, you feel safe, and that's a really important thing as a neurodivergent, to feel safe. So aligned with that, I think it's seeking mentorship as well. So it's connecting with neurodivergent professionals or advocates, which are in similar fields that you want to go for, and they can offer guidance, advice, boost confidence. So it's seeing, especially if they're a neurodivergent, it's seeing that neurodivergent in the place where you want to be, so your brain can actually have that visual representation of, wow, that's where I need to be, they're doing it, that means I can do it. And honestly, it will change your brain chemicals 100%. And I think leveraging social media as well, so like platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter, they're really, especially LinkedIn, it doesn't get the credit it deserves, to be honest, and they're so great for networking with other neurodivergent professionals, finding supportive employers, having all of those HR reps as well that you can openly have conversations with. So I think it's building that confidence, it's identifying the strengths, it's using targeted strategies that can really empower neurodiverse individuals to thrive in the job market. Again, I'm not saying through this interview that what I'm saying is easy, but there are things to think about. Put pen to paper, write down your strengths, write down your skills, and then research that, because the job that you might be going for might not be 100% suited to the brain that you have. So I do a lot of mind maps. So I always put what I'm passionate about, what I like, what I don't like, what I'm skilled in, and have different circles that interact with each other, and then Google those skills and those passions, and you might be surprised what comes up. So I would say that as well.
Thank you, Tania. And I think it's what you're describing there is kind of the ikigai method as well. What am I good at? What does the world need? And where and I think that's where everyone in their careers should begin. And let's not forget the amazing impact of neurodiversity on the world. Let's look at Albert Einstein. Some may not applaud Richard Branson in the same way, but he's still done very successfully in his line of work. There's an endless amount of people out there that Theo Profitis, that are in the business world, that have come from neurodiverse experience and who they are, individuals. And and it's just so required. It's so required, and it's so valuable to have neurodiversity. And this has been really helpful. Thank you, Tania. And
thanks for inviting me.
And we will definitely be speaking again at some time very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Been an honor.
Thank you for coming.